Welcome to the Revenue Blueprint. This is not another sales podcast on tips and tactics. Instead, we focus on unfiltered stories from founders and early stage sales leaders on what it takes to build a successful revenue team. If you get just a little bit of value from this, we ask that you pay it forward by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the podcast. All right, let's get into the episode. Welcome back to another episode of Revenue Blueprint. Seth, your garage studio is looking pretty good, although the that fish behind you could be a little bit bigger. Where were you in that photo?
In Bulgaria, in the mountains. Yeah,
Fishing in Bulgaria.
up in the mountains. I was with a bunch of Dutch guys. There's a Dutch guy, tall Dutch guy behind me. People were like, "What are you doing here?" We were like, "What are we doing here?" Now we do adventures. It was good. And then I have my stereo from when I was in 8th grade.
Oh yeah,
Jimi Hendrix. Some more fishing gear. Yeah, we'll add some good stuff.
If you ever want to get on Seth's good side, you can talk about fishing or some rock music from the 70s, I guess, right?
Yeah, back when I was in my teens in the 70s. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think there's one thing we want to touch on today, and it's this concept you were talking about before.
Sequences suck. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, people get stuck kind of in cadences. So why don't you open that up?
Yeah. I like sequences and cadences or whatever you want to call them. I think it's great for direct marketing done by, a sales-led approach. But I also think that it is one tactic of selling. And I think it is sort of holding back the evolution of SDR to AE. And I'll give an example. So I work with a team, and this isn't unique to this team. I see this across any other SDRs transitioning to AE roles. But I work with a team where the best SDRs were just promoted to AEs. Awesome. They get decent amount of inbound leads. They're closing deals. That's awesome. They also were the best SDRs. They can crush the phones outbound, email cadences, the whole thing. It's great. They get a book of business from the company's light on account managers, and they see that there's revenue in existing clients. Some of these accounts have not been worked. So they gave these AEs this book of business and said, hey, see if there's some revenue there. Expansion, upsell potential on existing clients, paid as new business for AEs. It's a good dream, right? It's perfect. Should be easy. And so I was like, all right, guys, how's it going? We talked about some strategies and things that we could use. And it was just like, well, we're like, how's it going? And they're like, well, we're building out the cadences. We're really struggling with a strategy around the cadences. And it was just like this, becoming this big cadence strategy session of what emails to write and what templates to write. And so much so that it became like nothing else was possible but only prospecting into this through these cadences. And I was like, have you guys just like called everybody at these accounts? Like, these are the best cold callers, and they're going to make warm calls. Hello, I'm your account manager. How are you? How's it going? And I was just like kind of baffled. And as I've seen this across more companies, I thought I should talk about it. And that, like, we're indoctrinating SDRs into cadences or sequences as the way to do sales. And that is a tactic of selling, right? I've seen, when I was an SDR, I've seen other SDRs call many people that are the wrong people in an account to figure out who the right people are and get data points to build a case. So when they call the right person, they have like the whole story. They know everything, right? Multiple referrals to this person. Like, what a great way to book a meeting and start a conversation. And so I had to really emphasize, be like, guys, drop the cadences. Like, yeah, that's great. Multi-touched, multi-prong approach is excellent. However, you can also just call everybody or email everybody. And it doesn't have to be in a 4-step email campaign. And I know the second, third emails work better, but it's like over-engineering this whole thing when just basic selling principles and skills that they already had are extremely effective.
Yeah, I think that this happens all the time where people, they start on this project or this new thing and they don't check themselves and they don't ask themselves why enough. Like, why are we doing this? And they oftentimes lose sight of the goal, right? And I think like whenever you're taking on something new, the way that you should think about it is building it in milestones. Build the minimum viable product today and then improve it tomorrow. So yes, could the cadences help them? But not like, it's not the fastest path to victory.
Well, it's also uninformed. I was saying to them, we don't know what to say, right? So like, I can come up with something brilliant. They can come up with something brilliant. And it can be totally wrong. So like, who cares? But if you talk to 10 people, you then know if you're going to write some emails or put some templates of value props in there, you're now more informed of what you should be saying to get people interested, which is, again, such a simple thing that they're so good at. But if you're blinders on to this one tactic as the way to do everything, you miss out on all this other ways to approach things.
Yeah. That's the whole concept behind like a fresh perspective on things and getting an advisor or a coach, is because sometimes you just get too far into the details that it's hard for you to actually take the step back and realize, oh, like, is this actually the best way to do this? What other paths should I consider? And like in this case, yeah, like go for the thing that is going to be easiest and then build from there, because you're going to learn a lot more about what you need to do after you start to get some of those data points. And like I saw this recently with a client who we were building some marketing collateral for them, we had a marketing advisor embedded in their team that is building some marketing collateral for them. And it's a new like B2B initiative that they're working on. And they're like, all right, go give me 8 variations of this. So the RGP went out and they built 8 variations of it. And the client had pretty critical feedback, understandably so, on every single one of them. And the way that we're going to fix that moving forward is like, hey, if we're doing a new project, we're not going to go try to create 8 different creatives or 8 different anything and then get feedback on it. We're going to build much tighter milestones and say, hey, let's build 2 creatives and then get feedback and calibrate on that. So that way we know how we want to build the next 6 of them after that. And it's one of those things that like seems so obvious after the fact, but people often, like, for whatever reason, their own constraints, right? The client's super busy. They don't have time they don't feel like they have time to like calibrate on this stuff, but you end up doubling back and doing a bunch of extra work because you have to give feedback on everything and you have to reset like all the expectations. And so I think this kind of like milestone mindset is super important in basically everything we do, but especially
that's why I was smiling. I was like, this could be applied in so many places.
Right, exactly.
Well, I guess where I also get worked up by this is that where I say like indoctrinated is, I don't know how many SDRs know that there are other ways to do stuff. If they've only been taught, you do a 7-step email cadence, sprinkling in 5 cold calls and 4 LinkedIn touches, and that's how you do everything. And they're like, what do I do if I can't find them on LinkedIn? Or like, I can't find their email address, or like, it's just like, well, you don't need to over-engineer that massive undertaking of what the 7th step is in this cadence when you could just, you don't even know what you should be saying in that whole cadence. So I'm just wondering how this is going to go through like the generations of like SDRs coming up. I'm already seeing it, that it's like cadences or sequences, whatever you prefer, are the only way to do these things. And it's like, well, no, there's all these other fascinating ways or interesting ways with email, LinkedIn, calling, or others to be effective.
Yeah, they become too reliant on like the original things that they were taught, and they're not stepping back to get like the full view of other paths to the solution.
But I don't know if they know that exists.
Right. It's not necessarily their fault, right?
They haven't been taught that.
That kind of falls on the management team there to help them see that.
Like in the olden days, back when me and Jimmy used to hang out, They didn't have these outreach. They didn't have outreach or these Cadences tools. We developed them and like did the stuff on our own with like Outbox. You did like folders of sent touches and dates. It was like all this convoluted approach, but we did it because it worked. But you had to do all these other things and try stuff that I don't know led to creative approaches, which is ultimately what leads to successful salespeople that are very senior. They're very creative in their approaches and trying things and stuff. They're not structured in this box of this regimented approach. There's many tactics in their toolkit, not just cadences and email, LinkedIn, calling, structured like that. So that's where I'm like,
I think the best salespeople I've ever met, they are where they are structured and where they try to set up the most repeatability happens in a way where they are thinking about, particularly like if a mid-market enterprise deal, they're constantly aware of everyone they need to be in touch with and the different things that they are on the checklist to get a deal done, but they're not concerned with how they get there, right? They leave how they get there wide open, knowing that it's going to be different for every customer.
and each person within each customer base, some people like LinkedIn chatting to communicate, or messaging, or WhatsApp,
Right.
or email, or phone.
Right.
Do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, I think more succinctly, it is they are very tight on what needs to get done and very open on how to get it done.
Yes.
All right, that sounded pretty good. Let's end the pod on that. Hopefully we'll see y'all soon.